Which meeting did we miss? Which meeting did we miss? It says you're not allowed to charge higher fees.
Yeah. Well, I always have this discussion. But the thing is, for me, I don't see it as higher fees. I see the fact that podiatry has been cheap for way too long, yeah? And actually, if you go to see any other medical, surgical consultant specialist in their area, you will pay 150, 200, 250 pounds to have your half-hour consult with that specialist, yeah?
Half hour, you're having a laugh.
Yeah, I know.
Even in Ireland, in Ireland here, shake their hand, it's 120 to 200 euros.
Yeah.
And the insurance doesn't cover that. And the secretary wants you to pay cash.
Yeah, and there's no treatment in that. There's no inclusion of a test. There's no scanning in that. Yeah?
No, that's just the first hello, assessment of the problem, taking some notes, right. And then the next thing is, right, we need to get, I just had my hip replaced. This is the Justin Blake podcast experience for health professionals that mean business. So wherever you are in the world, listen as we discuss everything you need for you and your health business to survive and thrive. Thanks for listening. Good morning, everybody. Another lovely, beautiful morning here. I think where are we? 29th of May. So today I've got a great guest on, and I have known and heard of. This is Jonathan Small, a colleague podiatrist from the UK. Jonathan's based in the beautiful Midlands in Southam, which for international guests, when you're ever in Royal Leamington Spa or the home of the Bard Shakespeare, you're half an hour from there. Stratford upon Avon. You're 30 minutes from there. So, an absolutely beautiful part of the world. So, morning, Jonathan. How are you?
Hi, Justin. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So how have you been getting on? With all these preparations for reopening.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting time for everyone. But I've really taken it as an opportunity to reboot my clinic. There were some things that I really had in my head that I wanted for my clinic going forward. Bear in mind, I've been in practice for 25 plus years now, and it's a matter of finding the time to do those things in your clinic, particularly major building works, which is what I've been involved with. And the whole point for me was to go on one chair clinic to a two chair clinic. That was my mission, and it's been in my head for the past few years, and I've been able to make it more of a reality now. We've got the one room done, and we're just going to go and start the other room now. But of course, we're trying to fit that now around seeing an increasing number of patients as a red, amber, green recommendations from the College of Podiatry come into force to who we can and can't see. So I've been juggling that, and we also run a mail order foot care products business called First Aid for Feet. So because I've furloughed the staff, I've been dealing with that as well. So I've had a really busy lockdown period.
Fantastic. Because that's an excellent idea as an add-on to a practice. Because a lot of people do hold a certain amount of stock and have a display cabinet in the clinic. But then for you to have had that in place, to be able to, if somebody contacted you during the lockdown, to be able to say, well, we'll stick something in the post and you have already stock to it. That's right. We just sell stuff that we already stock anyhow. I just have to hold higher stock levels. And with lockdown, we've doubled the number of orders that have gone out the door. It is a useful adjunct. But it's with the clinic itself, it's been an interesting journey with regard to what I do with my fees and going forward around. But just before we go on to that, if anybody hasn't seen online, Jonathan's done a really good video of what the patient can expect when they come to the clinic and a sort of walkthrough. And Jonathan was actually able to have one of his rooms that has a direct access now from the outside into the car park, so you don't come through the main clinical building. So a lot of patients, again, who are maybe worried about coming for treatment and attending clinics, obviously your building allowed for that to happen. But I've recommended to reassure patients of how, they want to know how it's going to work. You start in the car park. Here's the car park, and here's the door, and the hand sanitizer, and the chairs spread out, and this is what to expect and things.
Yeah, it was really.
And that will help to reassure a lot. Yeah, just to highlight to the patients that we'd really been thinking about them all the way through this. We weren't sitting at home, just sunbathing and reading books. We were actually getting on with stuff for them in mind, and to highlight the thought process that goes behind a room design to make it as safe for them as possible and as functional for us. It's worked really well. We've had a lot of positive feedback from what is, it's quite a small treatment room, that one. And we'll do.
But of course, what you wouldn't, if you weren't previously to this charging the higher prices that you and I were charging in our clinics, you wouldn't have had that money to be able to use this time to utilize that. Because a lot of clinics have that work on that week or two buffer, that they don't have any space for any unprepared eventualities like this. And again, they don't have that money left over in the practice. And we'll talk about profit later on and how it comes through. I know, if you don't have that extra money coming in, you can't invest in yourself, invest in your clinic, and to better serve your patients. When I talked last week, it was about how ethically you need to charge more, because so your practice fees had been allowed you that money in the bank to do all this renovation and do all these things, which are going to again continue to improve your practice into the future. So tell us a bit more about your.
That's absolutely true, Justin. It's something that's very important to me, and it's only really as I've done more talking around the subject of podiatry businesses and work smarter, not harder, and all of that I've realised that my driver in life, my why, is to give security, to give safety and security. And not having anything tucked away for a rainy day leaves me feeling vulnerable. Now, that's not just for me, but that's for my family and any loved ones around me. I try and provide a safety net for them. And 1 to 2 weeks is not a safety net. This lockdown has affected businesses. You'd have needed a 3, 6, 12-month safety net to get through this satisfactorily. And I've spent years building that up for myself, for my business, for my family, for my patients. So there's a big safety and security in it for them. But that also applies then.
One of the real drivers for me, I think you may have heard it before. I got to staff party a couple of days before Christmas, after everything was everything was paid up until then, and the Christmas presents bought and everything sorted in the practice, and the staff had 300 quid to get me through from one hour half day of fee earning, and then the 10-day close down over Christmas into the first week in January, and then again rent, rates, heating, light, electric, all those bills there. And I promised myself, how the hell did I end up here? I thought I was running a decent practice. I promised myself that I would never put myself or my family in that situation again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great, because then that gives you an absolute focus for driving forwards, and having a plan for what you want from your business and from your life. I think meandering through without that focus or plan means you're never really going to have a successful business. You really need to have an intentional working practice.
Yeah, see, I didn't want to be cruel at the start of the lockdown with the whole sort of things, but practices who were there was like, were you really running a business? You didn't have the business fundamentals in place. You didn't have the business systems in place. We've talked about this before. We're all very good technically, and we're really make it look really easy what we do, and we provide a fantastic. We're highly trained. But in terms of running practices, well, I had my first private practice in London in 93, 94. And so that realization was when I was back in Ireland in 2005, 2006. So it took me 13 years to figure out I didn't actually know how to run a business. Well, it did.
But for me, this is one of the fundamentals about for podiatry. It's the thing that's really held back podiatry, is because we're not in that realm of having that business head that says we're going to look and feel and deliver good quality service to our patients at a level commensurate with a professional graduate status. That's not where podiatry seems to peg itself. It pegs itself as at the level of hairdressing, and whilst in hairdressing you can get a range, you can get very much top end, I get that, but also we get the lower end, and podiatry, a lot of podiatry seems to be down at that lower end.
And one of the mentors I worked with before, he was one of his things was, why do the patients value their hairdresser more than you? And this was start from a physio perspective. And it was. And one of the main reasons was because that's that instant gratification for, if you turn up to see us in clinic, it may be 2, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks between orthotics or rehab and different things. It's going to get somebody goes into the hairdressers and drops their money. They come out, and the first thing somebody said is, "Oh, you've had your hair done," and gives them that instant. So they're prepared to pay for that.
Absolutely. But that also then applies to what we do where we talk about core podiatry, where we're removing a corn or an ingrown toenail. And one of the things that I've always built my practice to be is a responsive service. So if a patient phones up, a new patient phones up, we aim to get them in within the week or within the next couple of days if possible. Because then we can give them that instant gratification. They're not having to wait to get the solution. And that gives real value to the patients. And we get a lot of patients travelling to us an hour or plus to come and see us. And I, if they're coming with an acute problem, say an ingrown toenail that we've already identified on the phone, we've talked about possible nail surgery for them, then we'll actually gear it up that we can go straight into a surgery session afterwards if they're happy to. So they can get their assessment, their surgery, their fix, their solution all in one hit. No issue whatsoever, and they really are delighted with that as a level of service. Bear in mind the comparison to that people give me is, oh well, you could get it free on the NHS. They can't get a responsive service like that free on the NHS. That doesn't happen. So it's my way of being that purple cow, and you know about purple cow theory, where you're just trying to stand out. It's my way of doing that, is to offer that responsive service. And the other advantage of that for me is I get a good stream of new patients because they know they can get in quickly, they can get their problem fixed quickly, and they're not having to delay that, as you say, that gratification. And for me, a successful business is one that has a reliable, secure stream of new patients. Not filling your books full of existing patients.
Yes. And I mean, just back to that again, the NHS experience and running a practice in where alongside where there's perceived to be a free system. Well, the car park's not free when you get there. You have to, you're sitting in that was again what one of the physios was like when the patient's in treatment with you, and then they say, "Oh, I'm not going to come in for the next appointment. I've got my NHS appointment." And you're like, "Oh shit." Don't say, "Oh shit." Hey, fantastic. You've been waiting for that for such a long time. But let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get there. You're not going to know where to go. You're just going to be another number. You're just maybe seen late. Now, this isn't a criticism of NHS colleagues at all. I'm not, I worked in the health service for years. It gave me a really good start training base. But what their experience of that will be, even through that sort of process, will go and attend the appointment and see. But, again, as we talked earlier on about in terms of pricing in clinics and like for like, you're not actually comparing like for like.
No, not at all. And of course, the other thing is that security, like I mentioned, that they know they're going to get to see me each time. They're not going to see a different podiatrist each time. And they're not going to, people don't seem to put a value on their time very much. No. But in an NHS system, and you're right, great NHS services, postcode lottery though, is that you could be there and you could go, I've got to wait for an hour before seeing, and they don't put a value on their own hour, the patient doesn't. That has a real value to them, and they don't have to wait an hour at my clinic. The
way they ran the outpatient clinics here was like, the diabetic clinic that I worked in one time here in Ireland. The clinic started at 8 o'clock, and then the clinic started at 2 in the afternoon. So whoever was first there was it. You're busy. If you're a busy person, you've got kids to look after. You've got different things. You've got a whole structure. You mean you want to know that you're going to be seeing that. That was another one of the guys who was like, why if you never keep people waiting, why do you have a waiting room? Yeah, why not be the run on time practitioner? Yeah. The arrive on time plumber. None of this. He'll be there next Wednesday and he doesn't turn up for 3 weeks later. There are businesses built on that. I know with another mentor in Australia, there was the on-time plumber. That's what this guy's business model was. Yeah. I know that there's banks in America. If you're kept waiting in the queue for more than so many minutes, they credit your account because they value your time. Yeah, but they sort of turn up, take a number, and you never know when you're going to get out of there. Yeah. And especially now, are we going to be able to go back to like 20, 30 people sitting in it? That isn't going to happen.
No, that's right. So we are much more in healthcare, particularly. We are going to be run-on-time practitioners. Fortunately, I always was a run-on-time practitioner anyhow, but we will very much be, particularly to minimise the amount of time they're spent in the clinic environment. So it's in on time and out on time, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that worked both ways. I ran on time, but I wanted my patients to run on time. And just one springs to mind. And again, this is what another discussion I had last week about fees. You want the person that values you as well. And the really strange thing is this lady was a piano teacher. So she had kids coming for piano lessons.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure she would have been pissed off if the kids had turned up and they hadn't done their practice. She was turning up to me. On the third or fourth occasion, I was leaving for lunch and she was like 3/4 of an hour late. And it was like, she got me on the doorstep leaving the clinic and I was all,
it's all about mutual respect.
She was like, you have to see me.
Yeah.
Really? For the fourth, did we not have a talk about this before? And, I've got a meeting, can't see you. Phone Breach or Fiona and reschedule in. And I'm walking up the road, I phone Breach and say, when she does phone to reschedule, don't book her an appointment, I'll phone her back. And it was like, this is the third, fourth time. I got rid of her. And she took it personally. I was like, what happens if somebody's going to turn up to you and doesn't turn up on time and hasn't done their, and she was one of those doesn't turn up, didn't value me, didn't do her stuff. Yeah, it was like, get rid of them. So it does work both ways.
It does, yeah. It's mutual respect. Yeah, I will respect my patients before they've even been in contact with us. Yeah, that's the default. Yeah, and they're starting from that high platform. They've already earned it just from the fact I'm a professional and they're a member of the public with a need to see me. Okay, and that respect is there in everything we do, from the website, from the answering the phone, from the delivering any messaging, any email correspondence, anything. It's at a really high standard, full of respect for them. Yeah. And, but if they start to disrespect me and how we run the business, and that could be in criticism of fees is one of them, obviously, in them not turning up on time, in them not even taking some responsibility for their own foot health, then suddenly that starts to change that respect arrangement. And if that's the case, if they fall too low down on that respect for us, then actually they'll lose access to our service.
Yes. And again, that does go back again. That's the person who's price shopping around and looking for the cheapest thing and who doesn't value, again, they're that's them. That's the type of, C grade patient who's like, you don't want to do business with in your practice. They're going to price shop you. They're going to complain and this and that. They're going to be more trouble than they're worth. You want somebody who wants to pay the higher fees, not just for paying the higher fees, because they're more invested. But they're the ones who pay, stay, and refer for a lifetime, and are a pleasure to deal with.
Absolutely. Well, I had a funny incident this week. Somebody, a patient I hadn't seen for several years, asked the cost of replacement orthotics, and they were off-the-shelf orthotics. Yeah, so it was about £50 a pair as a guide. Yeah, she'd had them for 5 years. Yeah, so that's £10 a year it's cost her, and she asked for the cost, what the price
pennies a day.
And she said, they're more expensive than I expected, so I'll make them last longer. £10 a year. Okay? That's all it cost. Yeah? And she wasn't willing to invest in that. Is she going to be the sort that I'm going to deliver the highest quality of service and respect to in the future going forward? So am I going to go, you know what, there's other patients who are going to respect what we do a lot more than that? Yeah, because it's, you know, it's ridiculous. Yeah. They'll easily spend £10 on one trip.
Yeah. I used to say to patients, my glasses cost me 200 quid or 300 quid. Yeah. I said, you know, I use them every day. They're going to last a couple of years. They're pretty essential. Otherwise I'm blind as a bat. And they cost pennies a day.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet, when you say to them, do you want to look for a new car? They'll go, oh yeah, I'll have the one with all the whistles and bells on it. You know, and it's like, hold on, what's the difference between your car that gets you around and your feet that get you around?
Yeah. And again, it's, you know, most people don't buy the cheapest phone. They don't buy the cheapest holiday or the cheapest car. They get what they can afford, but what they perceive as the best value.
Yeah.
For them when they compare the prices on the next package holiday.
Yeah, I think one of the difficulties.
And they may end up spending a little bit more.
Yeah. One of the difficulties within podiatry, I think, is actually trying to educate patients around that in all aspects of foot health. And I'll just go back to that core podiatry thing. Is that in my experience, the ones who have less training, the patients have to see them more often to keep on top of their problem. Yeah, and ones who have more advanced training, they can get on top of the problem more fully, and therefore they don't have to come so often.
Yeah.
So the cost point may be more to see the more experienced, more knowledgeable person, who can do a treatment that lasts longer. But if you look at the whole year cost to the patient over a lifetime of a year or two, then actually it may work out cheaper to see the more expensive person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, back to what we started off with this. If you don't have that higher price point, and because it's expensive, rent rates, people just think, NHS colleagues used to think when you talk to a private practice owner that they're just, you know, as the guys say around here, you're just bailing it, mate. Yeah, bailing it out the back. Rent, rates, heating, lighting, tax, stuff, insurance. The costs are phenomenal. So if you're not charging that higher value money to give yourself slightly more profit, so you can invest in yourself to take on the extra training and to do all these things we talked about in terms of developing the practice, that allows you to better serve the patients. But if you're scrabbling around like I was, the 200 quid in the end of the bank and worried how you're going to pay all this sort of stuff, how can you do that? And then you're stressed. And you're not concentrating on that. And then sometimes you're maybe trying to force stuff on patients a little bit.
Unethical practices.
Type of thing.
Yeah, unethical practices, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about. Ethically, you need to be able to charge more.
Yeah, only offering to patients what you're trained to do rather than offering them all the possibilities, including onward referral. And there's an awful lot of that takes place, yeah. Whereas when you've got lots of tools in your toolbox and you've got a fee structure that supports that, then you're not worrying about if the patient can be better served going elsewhere. Then you're happy to refer for that to happen, yeah, and you'll do it readily. But if you
and also. Yeah, and also it allows you, you know, if you want to do your extended scope practice like ultrasound now, it's starting to get more traction. You know, seeing the cost of an ultrasound machine, plus then the cost of the courses just to be able to switch it on and know what you're looking at. If you want to do injections and any joints, Swift care machines. If you want to do, I used to have like pressure plates, 3-camera video gate analysis, to set that all up. If you want to have that in your clinic, you know, you need the money coming in to be able to have that to give that patient that sort of that extended service, which a lot of people want to work in. But if you haven't got the money, how the hell are you going to invest in the gate lab or or make your own orthotics? It's just a note. Which meeting did we miss? Which meeting did we miss? It says you're not allowed to charge higher fees.
Yeah. Well, I always have this discussion. But the thing is, for me, I don't see it as higher fees. I see the fact that podiatry has been cheap for way too long, yeah? And actually, if you go to see any other medical, surgical consultant specialist in their area, you will pay 150, 200, 250 pounds to have your half-hour consult with that specialist, yeah?
Half hour, you're having a laugh.
Yeah, I know.
Even in Ireland here, shake their hand, it's 120 to 200 euros.
Yeah.
And the insurance doesn't cover that. And the secretary wants you to pay cash.
Yeah, and there's no treatment in that. There's no inclusion of a test. There's no scanning in that. Yeah?
No, that's just the first hello, assessment of the problem, taking some notes, right. Then the next thing is, right, we need to get, I just had my hip replaced. Then the next thing is MRI. Then it's back for the review of the MRI. Yeah. And then it's sit down, and then we're going to talk about what procedures we're going to do. And then you're in for the blood test and the whole pre-med. And then you're in for the procedure and the follow-up and this and that and the other. God knows what the insurance
absolutely was. And would you ever turn around at any stage to them and say, no, I'm not having that MRI, or no, I'm not having that blood test? No. You wouldn't.
No, patients will come back and tell you that, he's really expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, that was another thing. When you drive into the car park outside the consultant's offices, do you want to see the consultant who's driving the nice new brand new Merc, or the consultant? There's that perception of, and again in clinics there's a perception of it's dirty down at heel and there's scruffy marks on the place and that sort of things. And I mean, again, you and I, we aren't this sort of like double your prices, stick this up, add this on this, and not give exceptionally better service. I mean, that's not what it's about either.
No, absolutely. And it's a real motivator. When you're charging more than your colleagues charge, you are really motivated to deliver more than your colleagues deliver. Yeah. It's inbuilt. It's there. It really drives you to do it. That's why I've done the refurbishment of my clinic, because I know my fees are going to have to go up now in order to maintain my business because of the change in working practices. So I want to make sure I'm delivering to my patients an even more increased level of service.
Plus, you're also building that for the future. You're not worried about next month. You're looking at 5-10 years down the line.
Yeah.
And how that's going to help your business as well.
Well, of course,
there's a lot of very short-term thinking, especially around advertising. Yeah. I wouldn't put an ad in there because the phone didn't ring the next day.
Yes.
And, it's like, I tried that and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about that patient who maybe saw that and came 6 months or a year later? There's that very short term. If it's ended now, the phone needs to ring tomorrow and the patient needs to be in the next day. And again, even the higher fees, it allows to equip the clinic better to better serve. But again, it allows you to build a longer term nurture system to build that know, like, and trust. Because again, that whole thing about when the patient comes to the practice, they just don't appear in a puff of smoke. The journey for them to get there, they've seen your website, they've had a chat, somebody recommended, they've had a look at a couple of other clinics, and then maybe it's taken them 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years to get to you. And that whole sort of process, and if you can nurture them along the way by maybe sort of follow-up emails or newsletters and all those other things that we should be essentially doing. And actually the clinics who had these systems all in place before the lockdown, and even just a simple computerized record with hit a button and do a text rather than having to phone every patient, those practices are coming out of this so much stronger, like on an upturn, rather than just it allows for all to run a proper business that serves your patients better. That's what it is. And also then it works for you rather than you working for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the difficulties we have as podiatry business owners is we put too much emphasis on the podiatry and not enough on the business owner side of things. Yeah, and all the things that go into a successful business. If you took a business that's successful, it can be a big corporation or a small business, that's successful. You will have a manager. You will have somebody who's in charge of marketing. You will have a bookkeeper, stroke accountant, stroke financial director. You will have
somebody delivering the service to patients. You will have somebody taking care of the
You got the web guy, you got the AdWords guy. I mean, I had a whole host of people add on side.
So why?
Because you wear all these caps as a business owner on yourself.
And would we expect a dentist to do all of those jobs? You just wouldn't expect a dentist to do all of them. So why do we expect the podiatrist to do all of them? Yeah, and it's ridiculous. So what we need to do is we need to build our business plan and our fee structure that enables us to pay for all those things, so that if we want to be the podiatrist, that's our job. If we want to be the marketeer, then that's our job. If we want to be the practice manager, then that's our job. But being all things, is what really does suppress the success of our business, suppresses our own personal development and to become more knowledgeable in the sphere that we enjoy the most. And we will feel much more weight on our shoulders trying to juggle all these balls. Now, some people are good at juggling balls. I'm one of those. I juggle lots of balls. I'm good at that. But I get the fact that not everybody can juggle balls like that. And if you can't, you're not going to make a success in all areas.
Yeah, you can't, you jack of all trades. Yeah, but again, and this isn't, again, if you're starting out and it's your first practice and you're newly qualified and you just come out of the NHS, transition out of the NHS, you will have to wear all those caps. But there's loads of help and there's loads of advice and there's loads of online stuff like this and YouTube and things about how to write a newspaper ad or a Google AdWords or how to set up this sort of system. And then it's as you get further along and the practice later grows, then then you have that slightly more money coming in so that you can farm that out for somebody else to do and take the weight off your shoulders. So but for longer term, it's not a good way to run it.
Yeah, well, for me, I think I don't see that as a successful route for the podiatry profession. Yeah, you wouldn't get dentists coming out of dental school suddenly I'm going to set up my own business just like that. Yeah, it just wouldn't happen. They'd go and work in another practice. They'd earn their position into the practice as a partner. Yeah, and that's far more the future for podiatry profession. Not that you can just set up straight away because it's cheap and you can do it yourself, but actually we want it to be, it's costly to get into a private practice, but my God, these private practices are awesome. They serve the patients and the public at the very highest level possible. The patients are given certainty in results.
Well, actually, the private practices that I had, and a lot of, I was fortunate enough, and again, I realized that routine come again, whatever you'd like to call it, is very difficult to scale and grow. Where MSK and extended scope is easier. So I talked about, we used to piggyback with chiropractors because we used to do a lot of x-ray and foot mobilization and joints. All you need is the couch, the laptop, your credit card machine, a few exercise sheets. And that is quite a cheap way to start up a business, a couple of grand. As opposed to if you're going down the clinical autoclaves and all the sterilization and waste, again, there's a lot of cost. So an MSK sort of bent to the practice can be, starting off, slightly work out actually better value.
It can be, but again, I'm not sure that it reflects well on podiatry. If you took a clinic that had a force plate, a treadmill, cameras, the Run 3D system, that's going to look so much better and deliver so much better for patients than somebody who's just got a couch. Yeah. So I think we've got to, I understand why people think start cheap. I did it. I get it. I understand where people have come from. But when we look at the bigger picture of the foot health of the nation and their walking ability and keeping active, I think we've got to look far more sophisticated in our delivery of our services. Yeah. Because
I think when people see bigger successful practices, they don't actually appreciate the journey that it took to get there, to learning all the mistakes, the late nights, the crying on the way home in the car because your life's falling apart, you're stressed, the whole fucking, you don't see that. They just see the shit, he's doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't see you working.
Years gone into it.
No, they don't see you waking up 3 a.m, working for 3 hours on something because it was in your head and you need to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, just think it happens. You think you're out the back just counting the money.
Yeah.
That's not the, that's it. Abbott says, he's agreeing with Jonathan for once, apparently. Listen, this is it. Yeah. So So final thoughts, Jonathan, on this coming out. And again, this is points that you and I have made to people over time. This is a good time to reevaluate the situation, to rethink. I said to some people, were you really running a business? And now coming out of this, put plans in place to where do you want to be 2, 3, 5 years time, and work back from that. What do you think is sort of like essential?
So for me, I think the first thing is realizing that you'll be seeing for quite some time, maybe half the number of patients that you were seeing in a day, because of the rules around social distancing, PPE, clinical, all of that. At best, you lose 25 to 30% of the number of people in a day. That means for you just to tread water at the level you were at before lockdown, you will have to either increase your fees by 25%, 30%, 50%, whatever it is. And that's just to tread water. If you don't do that, then you're going to be at a loss. You'll be working at a loss, and you can't sustain that for the long term. That's why these businesses are starting to fold, because they've realised that they can't sustain it. And that's why the government put a lot of money into furloughing and the self-employed scheme, because they've realised businesses can't continue running at a loss, so they're going to give some cash injection. So if you think that you can't put your fees up or won't put them up a little amount, then you are going to run at a loss and your business won't sustain. How is that helping the public? How is that helping your patients? It's not, okay? What we have to do is we have to decide our fees based on the needs of the business plan in place, the cash flow forecast, and then deliver the service at those fees. That's it, Let the patients decide if they're happy to pay those fees, but it isn't for you to go, I'm not going to charge those fees, because otherwise your business is doomed for failure.
Yeah, there's only so long. I mean, people have taken advantages of there's been grants and loans. I'd be really concerned about somebody's taking a loan.
I know. The bounce back loan, I mean, it's been a great thing, £50,000 interest free for a year. Fantastic, But what then happens, when the business can't sustain and you've burnt through the money?
Yeah.
No future.
And somebody, it's Simon Crutchley is sort of saying, it's crazy that, like when you made the point about dentists, it's actually crazy. New guys driving straight into autonomous working without mentorship, without any structure. There's nothing like that.
No, I know, and the thing is, you come from college after 3 years training, and you aren't highly skilled in all the areas of top and licensed podiatry working, and you wouldn't expect to be. You wouldn't expect to come out of med school and be like that, and you wouldn't expect to be in any other area. Yet podiatrists then go, I'm going to set up a private practice at podiatry clinic. Yeah. So what they do,
the orthopedic consultant, the specialist later on. I mean, he's been through then his postgraduate and stuff, and it's 8, 10, 12 years again.
Exactly.
But what's the difference between a rich orthopedic surgeon and a poor orthopedic surgeon, Jonathan? 6 months. So but those guys, all that extra training and flying off and doing their residencies and foot and ankle stuff in Sydney or Boston or wherever they've done, and coming back and working all those hours and working a lot. To go then and have to shake his hand, that's 200 quid. Again, he's put that blood, sweat, and tears and a large chunk of his life into that. So why shouldn't he be recompensed for it? So if you've done that yourself, you and I've been all over the world training and getting the best advice and mentoring over time. Why shouldn't we justify? I don't have to justify charging higher.
No, for me, it's not a justification on the past. It's a justification for me on what I deliver to my patients. But all of that comes into that delivery for the patients at the time. But the other thing is it's where do we want podiatry to be? Do we want to be seen alongside the medical and surgical consultants? Or do we want to be seen at the level of the hairdressers? It's our choice as professionals.
And is that why podiatry is perhaps struggling to attract students?
I'm sure of it. I'm sure there's no aspiration in it, is there? There's no aspiration. How many podiatrists drive around in fantastic cars with magnificent, great houses, fantastic lifestyles? Yet you think of a surgeon, consultant surgeon, sort of private surgeon, you think that's what his lifestyle is. Yeah. And it's aspirational. And the thing is, if we start doing it, then the rising tide rises all boats, doesn't it? Raises all boats.
That's it. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It will do. Yeah, my brother's just back from in the lockdown now. He's just been back from Stockholm for a tooth implant because it was cancelled here, and he actually met his dentist a couple of weeks after the lockdown, and he was like, we're not going to be doing anything with, I just heard today they're going to be opening in June, but the dentist was like drilling and stuff, and anyway, Pete headed off to Stockholm, and it's I think the implant, the dentist found was like the titanium implant alone, or the plug, was like 1,200 quid. And and again, it's that perception. It's like the hairdresser. I mean, the sell for the dentist is quite easy. Shane McGowan mouth, Hollywood smile, $5,000 gets you this. It's pretty simple. It makes it pretty simple for patients to see the before and after. As I said, rather than us, you don't actually get to see if you're doing real exercises. You don't get something to take away in a bag. It's that long term gain. But that was it. Pete was prepared to pay for, but apparently they've done more dental. That's where they did a lot of the first dental implants, and then his guy was the top guy, one of the top guys in Sweden, an Iranian guy, and he said last night he was telling me, he said the drilling was horrendous. Getting it. He said and he's on liquid because he's sending me pictures of him sitting in pubs in Sweden last week. Because there's no lockdown there or stuff, distancing and food, nice food restaurants where he's eating. But now he's on like a liquid diet for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But the whole thing, the scans, the everything, the implant, to come back a couple of days later and doing something else, that's all sort of priced in. And that's also, I think, in a lot of practices as well, is that dentists are very good at that. You always leave a dental appointment with knowing what the plan is. We're going to do this, we take this here, we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, and then the cost of this is going to be X, Y, and Z, and there, and here's the thing, out the back end, and how does that sound? Great, here's the payment plan, let's go. Podiatrists, we're not trained to, it's like, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, we'll see how you go, mate.
Yeah.
And that completely changed me when I went away to Australia and came back, and we set up, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do. This is going to involve 4 weeks. We're going to review so much for this work. How does that sound? Great. Payment option, no problem.
Yeah,
and then we'll see you again. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the way that I run my practice and always have done.
Packages.
It is. It's delivering that certainty to the patient, helping them through their treatment journey, giving them all the options, You're not saying you have to follow this. You're saying you can do this, and this, but this is the one you plug into me for, and if you want to do that, then they adopt that. Now, Justin, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to love you and leave you because I've got a video consult to do, so...
Okay,
it's been great catching
as ever. Thank you very much. That's been great, and hopefully everybody enjoyed that. Any questions you can do, and where can people just contact you, Jonathan? If they want to get
so I'm on Facebook a lot. Obviously, they can message me if they want anything. There's lots of information if they want to hear more about what I've got to say. Podiatry Legends podcast. You type my name in, Podiatry Legends, and also the
Work Smarter, Not Harder.
Yeah, or Jonathan Small, just type Jonathan Small. There's 3 podcasts now on Podiatry Legends. And there was a Hope broadcast about fee increases as well.
Yeah, and the Work Smarter, Not Harder site as well.
Yeah. So if they tap into us, go for information on Work Smarter, Not Harder. They've got lots of resources that I've put together for there.
Jonathan, as always, a pleasure.
Thank you very much,
Soon.
All the best. Bye now.
Thank you very much, everybody. We will be talking later on. Don't forget Tom Novella, 4 o'clock this afternoon, all the way from NYC. Should be amazing. Keep the questions coming. The questions already from New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland. So anything you ever wanted to ask a dance medicine looks after New York ballet dancers and has done for years. Send their questions. Just DM me. Talk soon.